Well, I guess that's what I get for messing around. Question and answer time. So I thought that I would do a video, and I think I'm going to do this every week, once a week, because it makes for an easy video. And I made a promise that I would do a video every day throughout the week. I'm only 4 days in, and it's tough. It's a lot harder than it used to be, because in the past, it was all about volume and not quality. And now I'm all about quality over quantity. Anyway, so people ask me all sorts of questions all the time. And these are just a few. Every week I want to answer your questions. And I'll throw in some ones from the past, present, future. So first question is, what inspired you to get involved with tiny houses? So the first contact I had with tiny houses was back in 2015. I was watching a show with my wife at the time called Married at First Sight. And if you've ever seen this show, it is a car accident of an event of two people who have never met, and they meet at the altar, and, well, you guessed the rest. So it's just like, it's like watching a car accident. You just feel terrible doing it, but you can't look away. And after that show was this show called Tiny House Nation. And I thought, man, if one show couldn't be dumb, this one is even more ridiculous. I was like, who the hell wants to live this way? So I watched that show for probably 6 months. Never came in contact with any of those people. I was a home builder at the time, so I built custom homes and also had a property management company. So, I mean, my life was not in the tiny house world at all. And so one day I get a phone call from somebody asking if I could build a tiny house on wheels. And I immediately accused them of just being a sick prankster. I was like, no way. Like, why would somebody call me for that? And they said, well, we've called several people, and they all say the same thing that you just said. And I said, well, this is an opportunity. So I decided to build the first house. It was for the show Tiny House Nation. And I just thought it was really full circle and kind of what life was calling me to do at the time. I also, was, as a hobby, was restoring a lot of custom motorcycles, and I had worked on cars for a long time, and I'd been in construction my whole life. So, to match all that stuff together, cool things on wheels, and bring all of my home building expertise to the table was actually kind of a really enthralling moment in my life. And, to be on TV was like we're going to the Super Bowl for a contractor. I was the type of guy who'd sit at home and watch HGTV and be like, this guy doesn't know shit, or whatever. And, I think that's how we all are, if we really do it for a living and we're not actors. But, so how long have you been interested? The second question, how long have you been interested in tiny house living and building? So like I said, I was more interested in making fun of it at first. And then I realized how realistically practical it was for different applications. And as a sidebar to that, I don't feel that the TV shows really did the whole thing justice, other than from a marketing perspective, because they got people that had families of 5 to live in these houses. And the only reason they did that is for clickbait. It was like, oh, this would be cool. But you have no idea how many of those people actually just, right after the episode, sell that shit. I built a tiny house. This is a true story. I built a tiny house for an episode of Tiny House Nation, and they never lived in it, and ended up having me sell it right after it was bought. So crazier things have happened. Where I think that tiny houses really serve a great purpose is the hotel industry, single living. Like if I was a single guy, I didn't have a family, I'd probably live in a tiny house because of my ADHD. It's so manageable. It just makes things so manageable. I got like 5 shirts and 5 of everything else, and that's it. And my life is just like stow and go, and I don't have to clean up anything. Number 3, what's the most challenging aspect of designing or building a tiny house? So the most challenging part is really curating down all the different ideas that somebody comes with. I feel like the longer that I've been building tiny houses, the more difficult that process is, because people will come to me with all of these ideas. Because see, in the beginning, there was a few shows, there was a few this, a few that, but now that it's been almost 10 years, there's so much information out there. And I think that sometimes people become overloaded with all of these different things. So I really try to bring a practical approach to it. I try to tell people, hey, look, I want you to play the tape forward. Is this really something that you're going to use, or is it because it was something cool on TV, like a rain shower head? If you have a rain shower head in your house, you use it like the first time that the bathroom's finished or whatever, or the first time you move in the house. But then after that, it's like this thing that drips like a couple of droplets of cold water in your top of your dome and just becomes super annoying. So rain shower heads sell houses, but I don't like taking rain shower heads. See, you learned something new about me too right there. Okay, 4, do you prefer more modern or rustic designs in a tiny house? This is all personal preference. I'm a modern type guy. We live in a modern world, right? I never settle for modern love. David Bowie. And behind me, this thing is very, very modern, and I love it, and it's an incredibly sleek and perfect design. So yeah, I am more personally inclined toward modern designs. However, when it comes to different hotels and venues such as that, rustic might be the best application. I've built a lot more rustic cabins for hotel companies than I have like modern. So that there's that as well. Have you completed any tiny house projects recently, or do you have any in progress? Well, that's a fair question. A lot of people that used to watch this channel, and you can go back and you can look at the videos. I ran a much bigger operation at that time, and now it's just me. And so I've kind of humbled myself in the sense of the projects I take on. I'm a one project at a time guy now, and a lot of that had to do with just the turbulence of COVID and just where we are in the marketplace right now. It doesn't make sense for me to operate at that level anymore. Plus, I enjoy this so much more. The ability to work on one project and really focus on my craft, and also now bring you guys along again has been such a surreal transformation for me. So I'm really grateful to be able to do this. And when I had all those people, I couldn't operate at that level. So yes, the house behind me is a $500,000 tiny house that is 100% the coolest shit I've ever built in my life. And I'm so happy to be able to take you guys along on that journey every single week. What materials do you prefer to use in your tiny house projects, and why? So lately I've been using a lot of wood. When I first started building tiny houses, I thought that they needed to be built like a car. And so I built them all out of steel. And although that gave me kind of a competitive edge in the marketplace, the steel studs created this not only like a radio frequency force field, so it was a pain in the ass to get any cell service inside these steel boxes, but also it was incredibly difficult to combat the thermal bridging that would occur when it it was cold outside. So the walls would sweat. You'd have that, thermal bridging is metal's very conductive. So any transfer of heat in or out of the structure, wood's a great insulator. So the upside of the rigidity was not worth the downside of combating all the cold aspects. It just became astronomically expensive. What's your favorite tiny house feature or innovation? I've seen a lot in the last 10 years, but I would definitely say that the flooring system that's been incorporated into this project is the most incredible innovation out of anything else I've seen. It's a floor truss system. It's patented and it's made by a company out of Wisconsin. And you can check them out. It's called Vertical Works, and they make the most incredible bulletproof 4-season floor system for a tiny house that I've ever seen. And in fact, I don't think I would build any other way ever moving forward other than using their system. Have you ever lived in a tiny house yourself? No, not for by lived meaning more than a year. No, but I did live in an 800 square foot apartment for 3 years, and it was great. Had my 2 kids. I was a single dad at the time, and I absolutely loved it. Lived there 2018 to 2020, 2021-ish. I can't remember exactly, but it was such an awesome time because, and here's why. When you have little kids, they're everywhere, so the manageability of knowing exactly where they are was so awesome to only be living in 800 square feet. Plus, we only had one TV because, where are you going to put all these TVs in an 800 square foot house? But it was nice because it brought us all together, and me and my 2 sons really bonded over that time. And I think it had a lot to do with the small footprint that we lived in at the time. I love this. What advice would you give someone just starting out with their first tiny house project? Don't think you know everything, and also really do your research, but ask good questions and be honest with the tiny house builders that you might be talking to. I'd say that's the biggest thing. Just be transparent. Be like, hey, look, I'm looking to build this thing. I don't know if I'm going to use you or not. I don't want you to waste your time on price. I just got a couple of questions. What is it that you do that's just so much better? Or what are you most proud of? Ask questions because there's a good saying, and it goes, I'm gonna try not to mess this up, but it's you can't have cheap, fast, and good. You can have cheap and fast, and you'll have a crappy product. You can have fast and good, and it's not going to be cheap. And you can have good and cheap, but it's not going to be fast. There's your e-commerce lesson for the day. This video is not going to be for everybody, and I totally understand that. And so with that being said, if you made it this far and you're not subscribed, I promise you the next video is going to be so worth it, and you're not going to want to miss out on tomorrow's video. But for some of you who have been following me for a long time, I really want to embrace this kind of question Thursdays or something and just do this video every week. And it's not for everybody. It's for the person that wants to know more about me, more about, the in-depth of what I do and why I do it. And it's always going to be right here in my shop. And, the point of this is to connect better with you guys. And that's really it. It's not there's no rocket scientist thing that's going to happen today because of this video. But I hopefully you appreciate it. And be sure to leave your comments in this for questions. because I want to call you out on it, and I want to, bring people in to this conversation and answer your questions and have you something to look forward to every week, right? And I love an easy video, and this is a very easy video for me to make, just like straight to the camera, and that's it. So with that being said, I'll see you tomorrow.